Alright everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Delaney, and for today's video we're going to be doing a declutter of my eyeshadow palettes, the big ones. I know this is one that a lot of you have been waiting for, and it's going to be an interesting one because I'm probably going to get rid of a lot. Hopefully. Because I don't use that many of my palettes anymore. I've realized what I really like and what I really don't like and what I want to keep in my collection. So if you're interested in seeing what eyeshadow palettes make the cut and which ones don't, then keep on watching. This is my eyeshadow drawer and it will not close. So that is telling me I need to do a declutter and fast because I need to be able to close this drawer. In my last video I did my small eyeshadow palettes and they are all in there doing their thing, but as you can see I can't even open that drawer without something falling out. So clearly it is time to get through these. So also my nails I did for a wedding. I really like the shade, but it did chip, so if you notice this little part here kind of is a mess. I tried to redo it really quickly, but you know what? It's okay. They're fine. Let's just get through this. All right, let's dive in. All right, similarly to my smaller eyeshadow palette video, there's one brand of eyeshadow that I am not going to declutter any of, and it's because I absolutely love those palettes. I love the formula, I love the pigmentation, I love the color stories, everything about them. So you probably can guess what brand that is, but we're just gonna go through kind of a speedy description of my Natasha Denona palettes because they're not going anywhere. So I'm gonna start with my newest addition, and honestly, it could be one of my favorites. We'll see. It's a little early to tell. Also, I really want the I Need a Nude palette. That one hopefully will be coming soon. But this one, this is the Natasha Denona Yucca palette. And it, first of all, the packaging is so unique. I love this little tie-dye kind of a thing here. And on the inside, it is just as beautiful as the outside. And the shimmers in here, I hope all of the Natasha Denona palettes in the future have these shimmer formulas. They're absolutely incredible. Super foiled, super sparkly, gorgeous, and just beautiful, metallic. Natasha Denona by far has my favorite formula. The only shimmers that come close are Pat McGrath, and they're the really special transformative shades that come close. All the other ones are just kind of, I mean, the mattes are okay. Like, I prefer this formula. I don't know what it is about it, but I just really prefer this. I love Natasha Denona's quality, and the color story in this one especially is gorgeous. I love these kind of like grungy, warm, almost swampy, but golden, like, I don't know, like the purple in here is a beautiful pop. This green over here, I can do a green look, I can do a purple look, I can do more of the neutral, like some of the neutral tones in here. There's just a lot to choose from in here, a lot of depth and range, and I really, really love it. I'm just gonna swatch maybe one shade from each if I feel like it, if I so choose. So let's just go with this one because it's my favorite shade in this palette. It is like a bronzy, it's a duochrome. You see how it's pink now? It looks pink here, and then it's a bronzy green to pink. It is a gorgeous color. I mean, wow. That is just a stunning shade. You saw how easily that swiped on my hand. It lasts on my eyelids. I don't have any kind of reaction to these shades at all. This is why I love Natasha Denona. I mean, from a distance, look at that. In low light, in harsh light, in any kind of lighting, gorgeous. I know I've talked about this particular palette a lot, but it's my newest one in my collection, so it kind of deserves a little bit of a spotlight because I do not have a dedicated video on this. If you do want to see a dedicated video on this with swatches and looks, then please do let me know, but this one is not going anywhere. So keep. Next up is in the kind of similar family. This is the Natasha Denona Bronze palette, and oh my gosh, is it dirty. Yes, it gets fingerprints all over it. Do I care? No. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous palette, and these bronzy, warm tones. I mean, I don't think I can think of someone who it wouldn't look good on. Like these warm, neutral shades. I mean, it is a little bit orange leaning. Definitely more on the orangey copper side, not as much of the gold side. The Yucca palette's got all the golds in it. This one is your more bronze copper type shades. This one is a shimmer heavy palette. If you want shimmers in this color story, go for this one. You have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mattes and one kind of cream to powder shade. And then the rest are your sparkly metallics. Now this one is a little bit older, but the quality is still great. And these shimmers still are just so stunning. This one is my favorite shade of the palette. I am just gonna swatch that one for you. I mean, need I say more? See how this one is more of a metallic and the other one is more of a sparkly shade? That is why I do kind of like the Yucca one. The shimmer's in there a little bit more, but they're still absolutely gorgeous. And if you don't like sparkle, go with the bronze palette. It's a little bit more metallic than sparkly, but still beautiful. So this was my first Natasha Denona palette, I believe. This is the Sunrise palette. Yes, it's a little on the older side, but it's still really, really beautiful. These tones in here are still so beautiful. I will say, I think I do have some repeats in here. I'm not sure. Like, I have the Coral mini palette, and there's it's a very similar color story to this. So if I were going to be decluttering, this one definitely would be in the running. I don't think I am going to, though, because I do enjoy having all these Natasha Denona palettes. Not only because I review makeup on YouTube, but it is my favorite brand and I like having options. And I like having things for comparison for new palettes as well, so I can help y'all make a more educated decision. This is, I guess, my brand of expertise. So I'm going to go ahead and swatch my favorite shade in here, which is this purple one. It's got like a purple to blue shift. And yeah, it's an older palette, but the quality is still freaking gorgeous. I mean, wow. Just stunning. So that's the Sunrise palette, and that's a keep. Next up, we have another kind of older one, not super old, but this is the Natasha Denona Love palette. And again, what a color story. Again, this one may be one that I would consider decluttering only because I am not a super red makeup person. I do like the purple in here, but there's only 2. Well, technically 3 if you count the shimmer, or if you want to kind of, this one can be used for both. But it's not like a true purple palette, but it's not a true red or a true pink. I do like that it has a bunch of options in here. Around Valentine's Day, this palette does get a lot of use, but it's not my go-to for every day. And that's the only reason that I may, if I were going to be decluttering, think about this one. I think, which one's my favorite? I think this one, the Giving shade. Oh yeah, it's like a duochrome gold to pink shade. I'm gonna put that up here. Oh yeah, still beautiful. I will say it has more of a transparent base, so it's not usually what I go for, but see how it shifts from that like goldy peach to pink, and it's very glittery and beautiful. Still great quality, even though it's an older palette. This is one of my older ones in my collection, and it still rocks, so keep. Next up, we have one that's not super old. This is the Natasha Denona Retro palette. And ironically, if I look at the years that these came out, maybe I'll think they're more old than they are, but this is gorgeous. This is one of my favorite Natasha Denona palettes of all time. This color story is just so me. It's kind of grungy, kind of pink toned, leans a little bit almost green with the neutrals, which I love. This kind of like warm pink over here that's kind of muted. It goes from really light to really deep. I will say it could go a little bit darker, but this shade does pack on really well if you want to make it deeper. But these shimmers are stunning. This sparkly shade and this sparkly shade here are like reminiscent of the newer shimmer shades that are coming out now from Natasha Denona. So I don't know which one's my favorite. Glitz or Psychedelic? I think Psychedelic only because it's that transparent base with a glitter. And it just is so pretty. But Glitz is beautiful too if you want more of a metallic shade. But let's go ahead and swatch this one. Oh yeah. The pigmentation on that, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell with my lighting right now. But it is a pink shade, very like a baby pink with blue sparkles in it, and it looks absolutely stunning from a distance. Up close, just swiped all over the lid, on the inner corner. Beautiful shade. Pairs so well with all these shades in here, and I usually put it on top of whatever I do with this palette. So, such a good one. I mean, just look at my hand right now. This is why I love Natasha Denona. Look at these shimmers. The mattes also are really gorgeous, so don't get me wrong, but I am a sparkly gal, and I love sparkles, and that's why I usually gravitate towards them. So, next up, we have the Natasha Denona Glam palette. Funny story, I actually bought this and returned it, and then bought it again. I never do that, okay? It's super wasteful. I don't know if I got a dud or what happened, but the one that I had originally purchased, the pigmentation wasn't there. It was not the same quality that I had come to know and love with Natasha Denona. So I had returned it, and then I heard reviews online of just how amazing this palette was and how it was some of people's favorite ones in their collection. So I decided to give it another try, and I'm glad I did, because I think I did get a dud before on my first try, because I do really love this palette. I will say the range isn't quite there. It is very light, but it is a very light, cool leaning neutral palette, but you have tons to work with in here. It works for a lot of different skin tones. You can warm it up, you can cool it down. You really can do a lot. You have more of a pink, you have more of a taupey brown, you have a bright gold, a pale gold, you have your silver kind of grays over here. This one is a beautiful shade as well. So you really can choose which way you want to go. But if you're a neutral makeup girly like me, this is definitely an everyday palette, something that you can get a lot of bang for your buck out of because of the range in here. I will say if you're looking for depth, it's not the deepest palette ever. You can use this shade to deepen up a good amount, but it's not like a pure black shade or something like a really dark brown. It's just kind of like, it does lean heavily cool toned, so pairing it with the warm tone is a little bit for me, but I do really enjoy all the other shades in here. It still works really well. It's good quality. The shade in particular is not my favorite, but it does call it lash line, and I do like it for that purpose. Just lining the lash line with it, using it as a eyeliner. But that's the Glam palette, and let's see what my favorite shade in here is. I think it's this gold. Oh yeah, it is. That's a beautiful gold. All right, let's see if I have room to swatch it. Yeah, buddy. Look at that shine. I know this one looks very similar to it, but on my hand you can kind of see the difference, like in person. This one is more of like an orangey copper, and this one is more of a true gold shade. And wow, the stunning metallicness. This one also has a little bit more glitter, and this one's just pure metallic, just shine. You can see it almost looks like metal. This one has some glitter in there, but yeah, what a great one. Keep. Next up is kind of a hybrid palette, but it is an eyeshadow palette, and that's why I keep it in here. This is the Natasha Denona Glam Face Palette, and yeah, it's dirty. The mirror packaging just gets dirty. Whoop. I've used this so much the hinges are like super loose. And you can tell by the shimmer shades in here, I use this palette constantly. I will eventually hit pan on both of these shimmers. I'm pretty close on transition, and I'm getting there with the crease shade. I don't necessarily use the smoke one as much, because when I use this palette, I'm going for like a natural, subtle, pinky glam, but something that really packs a punch. And I love this palette. I love the highlighter in here as well. And the blush is okay, not the best, but this highlighter plus these shadows are worth it 100%. I still use the cream blush, but I like other cream blush formulas better. But these eyeshadows are something special, especially these shades here. I'm just gonna, see how beautifully just like wet that looks. Let's see if I can give this some justice here. Oh my god, it's so pretty. It's like your skin is just glowing. It's beautiful. And the shimmer in here, I mean, it is really as sparkly as the other sparkly shades in the newer palettes. I love this. My mom wanted an eye palette, and I told her this is the one she needs. Because she also gets a highlighter, I don't think she's going to use the highlighter as much, but these shades down here are just something she would use every day. I honestly get so much use out of this. I bring it traveling with me. Clearly, it's really dirty and messed up because I bring it everywhere with me. I love it. I really do. And if I'm going to repurchase a palette, it's probably going to be this one. So keep an eye out for that. But that's a keep. Last but not least, for my Natasha Denona palettes here is a very dirty palette, but it's a great one. This is the Natasha Denona All Neutral Biba palette. This is the Big Mama palette, and it has bigger pan sizes. It is one of the more expensive ones, but if you need a palette for every day and you want to have some range, this is your palette. I will say I wish this palette had a little bit more shimmers in it. It is very matte heavy, but if you are a matte lover and you want all the matte shades, this is one for you. It's very expensive though, so I would say if you're just trying out Natasha Denona's formula, go for the mini first and see if you're going to use the formula every day, and then maybe you can invest in something like this. But I really love this palette. It is not my most used Natasha Denona palette, so if I was going back in time, would I purchase this Big Mama palette? Probably not, because it would take me forever to actually get through this palette. And it doesn't have those special shimmer shades that I love so much, but it is a great palette. It is one that I use on other people if I'm doing their makeup, because there's a shade in here for everyone. And especially these shimmer shades, they seem really good for mature lids. They're not super sparkly, but they are a nice metallic shine. So there's a place for this in my collection, but it's not my all-time favorite. But this one is still a keep. I'm not going to swatch any because the shimmers in here, let's just be honest, do not compare to the ones that are on my hands right now. And swatching a matte shade is not going to do any justice. It's just not. So, but this is a keep. Let's talk about an influencer eyeshadow palette that I'm going to be keeping. Now, it's kind of because it's more new. Color story wise, I don't know how long it's going to last in my collection, but I really wanted to support this creator because I really enjoy her content. I really enjoy her just in general. This is the Hella palette from Odin's Eye and Angelica Nyqvist. Hopefully I'm saying that correct. I mispronounce it all the time. I have her Kados palette as well, which you'll be seeing shortly. I really enjoy her content and I want to support her. And I had never tried Odin's Eye's formula before, so I was very interested to give this one a try. Now, personally, I love this whole green top row. It's very Natasha Denona Yucca vibes, but before that. And she even said she loves the Yucca palette from Natasha Denona, so I could definitely see the vibes in here. And this was like preliminary to the other one, so maybe she was foreshadowing a bit. But these are absolutely gorgeous shades. The sparkles, like the glitter shades in here, are amazing. I just don't wear colorful makeup a ton anymore, but I think I can get enough use out of this top row and the greens and these shades here that I can hold on to this for a little longer. The pink, as I said, I don't use a ton, but I definitely could get some use out of it. I am just going to show you a super sparkly shade just to give you an idea. That is so pretty. If Odin's Eye comes out with a neutral palette, I might have to get it. Look at that. That's like, that's so good. It's freaking wow. Like, you would not be able to tell me that that's not the same formula as these. I love this formula, I really do. I just wish that the color story was a little more leaning neutral and not so much warm yellow, because I don't need the yellow. I like the warmth, but just not super, super yellow. I needed a little bit more muted, like that other palette that I keep droning on about. But such beautiful artwork, great creator. That's gonna be a keep. This one kind of pains me a little bit, but I think I might have to get rid of it. This is the Villains Misunderstood palette from ColourPop. I've been keeping this around for so long and I never touch it. It's gotten through so many declutters just because it's a Disney collaboration with ColourPop and it's the Villains. I really love the Villains. And I use this palette a ton. You can actually see dips in a lot of these shades. I used these neutral ones and then this one especially, the copper. This green I got a lot of use out of. This deep green, oh, it's so pretty. But it's just, the quality is great, but I just don't use this color story anymore. But look at that. Wow. It's still so beautiful. I just never reach for it. And I just don't think I can keep it if I'm not reaching for it, as much as it's so pretty and I just want this one shade out of it, to be honest. These shades I can dupe in other palettes, but this one here is something special. It's like very Slytherin vibes, but I can find that in a single maybe. So I'm just gonna have to declutter. This one is from iMagic, and I got this in the Online Makeup Academy makeup box. I am surprised by the quality of this. Like, it's really, really good quality. I just, I don't know, like I never reach for it because maybe it's just like a really basic color story and I have a ton of neutral eyeshadows. I don't really feel like it is needed in my collection, but for right now I'm going to keep it because the formula is really good and I think I'm going to use it in my kit. I'm not going to use it like every day for me, but it's a beautiful palette and the quality's great, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep, just maybe not in my main eyeshadow palette drawer. This one pains me because this was one of my very first eyeshadow palettes ever. This is the Too Faced Chocolate Bar, and I know I can hear y'all screaming and you're like, oh my god, that's such an old palette. Yes, it is. I feel like I've had this since high school, which has been a long time for me. I don't want to say how long, but it's been a long time. And it still smells like chocolate, which is one of the things I absolutely loved about this palette. Looking at it now, the shimmers are not great. They're really not. The mattes hold up. They're pretty good, but I haven't touched this in years. I've been keeping it for nostalgic reasons, but it's time to go. I have these colors in better formulas, and it was a great palette for many years, but it's gotta go. But part of me still pains to let it go because it was such a good times associated with it. But declutter. This one's not going anywhere. This is the E.L.F. and Chipotle palette. This collab is what I never knew I needed. It is like the foil on the outside of a burrito, which I love. And then when you open it up, it's supposed to look like the bins at Chipotle, like the salsas, and it's named after all the foods, like black beans, it's, you know, whatever. The shimmers in here are so good. Like, E.L.F. really killed it with this eyeshadow palette, I must say. I did not like their bite-sized palettes, and if you saw my other declutter, you'll see what happened to those. But this formula is so much better. I don't know if it's because it's a collaboration or what, but I'm just gonna swatch this for you real quick. Look at that gold. I mean, for E.L.F., that's a beautiful, beautiful metallic. And this, you know, I'm just going to do another one because this one's like that sparkly shade. Yeah, that's so pretty. But yeah, I don't know if this is ever coming back in stock, but I'm glad to have it in my collection, and I love Chipotle so much, so I'm keeping it. All right, this one definitely can go. This is the Hangin' in Hawaii from BH Cosmetics. It's a beautiful palette. It's just very basic, and I have these shades a million times over. The shade, like, the quality's fine. It's good. The shimmers especially are good, but the mattes, I mean, they're okay. They're just, the packaging is just very cheap, and I have this palette like 100 times over in my collection, so I don't need to hang on to this one. So I'm going to declutter. This one I got in Influencer. This is the Urban Decay Wild Greens palette, and I'm gonna be really honest, I forgot this was in here, so I think I can declutter it. I never really used it. I used it a couple times to review it, and that was about it. I forgot about it. So it's interesting how it opens, but I don't really like it. This color story is like everything that I should love. I love greens, I love neutrals, I love pinks, but the formula's just not 100% there for me, and it's kind of forgettable. I swatched this palette and I was thinking, where's the pigment? So if that's the case, I'm not going to keep it around. So I'm going to go ahead and declutter. So I have two palettes from Huda Beauty. that are like the bigger palettes. We went over my mini ones last time. So the first one is the Rose Quartz palette, and wow, oh wow, is this a beautiful palette. I was just stunned when I saw this in store, and it made me need to buy it, and I don't regret it. I will say though that going forward, am I going to be buying a lot of Huda Beauty palettes? Probably not. I've just found that the formula is not my 100% favorite, and I should just spend my money where I really, really enjoy the formula like 100%. And that's Natasha Denona. So this one is gorgeous and beautiful, but it is like the Huda Beauty of all Huda Beauty palettes, in my opinion. This is so stunning. These muted pinks, these shimmers are just absolutely amazing. I don't think that Huda can top herself. This is just like so good. So I'm glad I have it in my collection. I really am, because it is gorgeous. Let's just swatch one of the shades just to show you what the formula is like. Yeah. Gorgeous is all I gotta say. So I think that speaks for itself. But yeah, this one is a keeper. And the other Huda Beauty palette that I have is the Empowered palette. And this one is a gold neutral palette. Again, absolutely gorgeous and stunning. Between these two Huda palettes, I don't think I need any more from her. This is just like the warm tones, the other one's the cool tones, and these shimmers are just gorgeous. I will say the glitters and the shades in here, like the shimmer shades, are a little bit like chunky. That's the only difference really between the formulas. This formula is not as good because it's chunky. Like this one especially is gorgeous and like super metallic, but you can kind of see the texture in it. It's got a little bit of flakiness going on. I don't know what that's about. See how it kind of crumbles on the outside? I don't know if it's because it's a cream or what, and see how it's tiny bit patchy in there. Some of those shades do show up like that, and I really do want just like smooth shimmer. Let me make sure the other one's not like that, because I think it's just like different formulas in the palette. Okay, see how that one's more of a transparent base with a glitter? I like that one better than the creamy shades, but again, it's good enough to keep in my collection. Has a nice duochrome in here. I'm gonna keep it, but I don't know if it's gonna last the next declutter. I'm gonna be real honest. We'll see, but I'm gonna keep for now. One I can definitely declutter. This one is from Juvia's Place, and this is the Taupes. I originally kept this because I wanted to keep a Juvia's Place palette in my collection just for like comparison and seeing the formula, and this was my most used one, but I haven't touched it in a very, very, very long time. So this one's gonna be a declutter. I will say the formula's not bad, but it's not the best either. And what I've learned is I'm not gonna reach for it if there's something else better in my collection, so I'm gonna declutter. This one was given to me by a friend. She got it in an Ipsy or something, and she wanted to see if I wanted to try it, and I did, but I don't really like it. So this is the Beauty Creations palette with the Murillo twins. I do not know those creators. I do know they are creators, but that's all about it I know. And this is like a pressed glitter shade. It was the one that drew me to this palette, and it's just not it. It's just not it. It's just kind of chunky, and I don't reach for it. So neutrals, great. Pinks, again, I don't wear pinks as much. It's just not for me, so I'm going to declutter. And if you hear my dog in the background, he's just having a grand old time, so hopefully that doesn't bother you. But he's just having so much fun. I think I can declutter this. I think. This is from Catrice. No, this is from J.Cat Beauty. This is the Noche, Dia and Noche palette. And the whole top row, oh shit, now I remember why I hated this. Okay, there we go. The packaging sucks. It almost broke my nail. I'm being so serious. It almost broke my nail. The top row is mattes. I don't like the formula really at all. It doesn't really do much. The shimmers are the star of this show, but I have shimmers in my collection I like better. So I'm gonna declutter. I'm gonna be brutal. I'm gonna declutter. This is one that I've been looking for a long time, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna declutter this one or not. I think I might have to give it a little bit more of a chance before I declutter. I've only used it once or twice. This is from LA Girl, and this is the Sun Kissed Glow palette. And I really like LA LA Girl's formula. I will say there's a lot of unused space in here. They could have made this a lot more curated, a lot more small, compact. I know some people really like big palettes, but the mattes in here, at least from when I tried them, were really good. I mean, not like higher end good, but good for the price. I'm gonna go ahead and swatch one of the shimmers just to give you an idea, but the shimmers of LA Girl are just so good. Oh, there you go. See? Right next to Huda, and it looks beautiful. If it can hold its own up against Huda for the price range, the shade's beautiful, especially against the other shades, so I'm going to keep it for now, but I need to test it out a little bit more and then make my decision. So keep. Next up is one of the most unique palettes in my collection, but sadly, I think it's going to have to go. I hate to say it, but this is the Glamlite Pie Palette, and it looks like cherry pie. And it has glitter, and it was one of their holiday releases years ago. It is so cute. The shimmers are actually really beautiful, and it's a very shimmer heavy palette. Well, I guess it only has one more shimmer than matte, I guess, and it has a blush in the middle, but I will say it is a bit more colorful than I usually go for, and I never reach for this palette, and it's not something that I take on the go with me. But I will go ahead and swatch a shimmer for you, and maybe it might change my mind. I don't know. But, ooh, the shimmers are really pretty. It's just so colorful, and I just don't go this colorful a lot. This one is definitely up my alley, but I have it in a bunch of different formulas in my collection. Yeah, I will say, like, the colors are beautiful, but the formula is not so spectacular that I can't get this effect with something else. And the packaging is beautiful, but it's bulky, and it's just like a very special occasion kind of a palette, and for that reason, like, I'm not going to keep it around just to use it a couple times. So I think that one is a declutter. One's hard. Okay, so this one is the Smoke and Glow palette from Ombre Cosmetics. This is CC Clark's brand, and I really enjoy her content, and the palette is really pretty, but I never use it. I think I'm going to put it with my influencer makeup stash that I have going. Eventually the Angelica palette with Odin's I may end up there. I'm just going to get a little bit more use out of it before I do. This one, the neutrals are good, but the formula is not like the best in the world. It's just okay. And I really am glad I got to support Cece because I really enjoy her content, but this palette is just not my favorite. It's fine, like the quality's fine, it's not bad, but it's not spectacular either. So I'm going to go ahead and put this with the influencer makeup. This one is from LA Girl as well, and this is the Hey Hey Vacay eyeshadow palette. And this one is definitely a keep. I'm kind of debating if I should get rid of the other one and just keep this one, because this one is just absolutely gorgeous. It has a similar green shade to that one in the Villains palette, so I don't feel as bad about decluttering that one. It has mostly neutrals, but with a pop of color. Definitely something that I get a lot of use out of. This shade right here is pretty similar to the one that I was just talking about. It's just less glittery and more metallic. Still beautiful. This gold shade in here is super metallic and just stunning. So I think what I'm gonna do is, I don't know. Should I give that other palette a chance? I might just keep this one and get rid of the other one. I don't know. I don't think I've given the other one as much of a chance. So I'm going to keep both for now, but that other Sun-Kissed one from LA Girl may end up decluttered shortly. And this packaging is much sturdier. I would definitely go for this over the other one. But this one is gorgeous. This one, I think I'm going to, I don't know. I think I'm going to declutter this one, but I'm not sure. This is from Pixie. This is the Pixie and Tina Young collaboration. I got this in PR from Pixie, and maybe I need to give it another shot, but when I used it a couple times, the pigment just didn't seem to be there. For some reason, I like a lot of Pixie products, but the eyeshadow just doesn't hold up as well. I don't know why. I mean, some of the shades are fine, and the matte shades are fine, but like, when it comes to these bolder, glittery, like, shimmer shades, they don't hold up as well. So I think this one is going to be a declutter, sadly. Juvia's Place, another one. This is the Warriors palette, and this one, I'm gonna pretend that didn't happen. This is the Warriors palette from Juvia's Place, and it is a great neutral palette, but I have a ton of neutral palettes, and I never reach for this one. They're all straight metallics and no glitter, and that's just not my style anymore. And because it's a neutral palette, I have these colors a million times over, and I don't really need to keep this one, so I'm going to declutter. This one I am definitely going to keep. This is the Transition palette from Dominique Cosmetics, and this is an all matte palette, not something that I usually keep on hand, but as a makeup artist, this would come in handy a lot. I can use these shades for face or eyes and for pretty much every skin tone. So it's a beautiful formula from really light to really dark, and it is something great to have on hand and a great companion palette to my single shades. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep this. Really great. Dominique Cosmetics is another influencer brand, but really, really great quality. Ooh, I forgot this was in here. This is from Tati Beauty, and again, I never reach for this, but another influencer brand right here. So this one is probably gonna also go in my influencer makeup stash, but this is the Tati Beauty palette. It is discontinued. The brand no longer exists, so sadly you cannot purchase this unless you purchase it on eBay or like other resale sites. But this was a great palette, I must say. Like, the quality is really, really good. The pressed glitters are one of my favorite pressed glitters that I've ever tried. I will say that the shimmer shades didn't really live up to the hype as much, but the mattes and the glitters were really the stars of the show. So I'm not going to declutter it, again, because I want it for YouTube purposes, review purposes, things like that. So I'm going to keep this, but only for the influencer makeup stash. So it's going to be moved out of my drawer. One I know I'm going to keep. I've talked about it many times on my channel, so we're just going to go through it very, very quickly. This is the Pat McGrath Mothership V Bronze Seduction Palette. A very long name, but really beautiful. And it is really heavy. It kind of is a weapon. You could use it as one, really. Yeah, I'm not kidding. It's really heavy. Here is what the inside looks like. When I talk about the Pat McGrath special shades, I mean like these shades here on the end, this duochrome, multi-chrome situation that's going on over here. You see that blue on the outside, the yellow in the inside, and this one has like green to gold to purple shift. Truly spectacular. The shimmers also really, really gorgeous. The matte shades, they do have some longevity to them. They are beautiful. They are pigmented. I do believe there are mattes that compare, but the shimmers are truly the standouts of the Pat McGrath formula. So like this one, oh my gosh, it's so pretty. Just amazing. That is like this wet glittery shade. And then we have the duochrome or multichrome, whatever it is. I think it's a multichrome. But that is my favorite Pat McGrath shade of all time. And it rivals the like Cleona multichrome shades. And this shimmer right here rivals the Give Me Glow Cosmetics single shade, the really hyper glittery one. And it is in a palette. They are very expensive, but I will say the quality is amazing. And if you can get a quad of colors that you'll use every day, I'd recommend that. I might not recommend the big palettes as much because of the price, but the quality is there, and if these shades are something you're going to use all the time, you're not going to be disappointed. So I'm going to keep this one. It is one of my favorite palettes, but it's just very expensive. So keep it. These next ones, I'm not really sure what to do with just yet. I'm kind of keeping my ear out to see how things play out. But I have two palettes from Lunar Beauty, and that's Manny MUA's brand, and I'm not really sure how I feel about supporting Manny MUA right now, if I could say the word. But this is the Moonspell palette, and I must say, as far as like unique palettes go, this is one of them. It looks like a spell book. It's gorgeous. The shades in here are absolutely beautiful. I don't really get a lot of use out of this palette though, ironically, even though it is greens, neutrals, and pinks, like purpley shades. I used to be super into purples, and now I'm not as much. I'm more like neutral leaning and still with the greens. But I think I might have to declutter this one. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to declutter it. I really don't reach into it a lot. It's just so unique. I've held on to it, and it's like the perfect Halloween palette. and which makes me want to keep it, but if I never really use it, then do I really need to keep it? I might have someone who might like this even better. So I might declutter and give it a new home. The other one from Lunar Beauty I will keep for now. I'm going to put the Lunar Beauty Moonspell in the influencer makeup stash right now, and then I might keep this one for a little while longer, just while I am deciding what to do in general. But this is the Nude Prism palette, and I will say it is a gorgeous palette. The shimmers are the true standouts in here. The mattes are okay, but the shimmers are really beautiful. Do I need this though? I don't think so. I have the Transitions palette. I have the Natasha Denona palettes for the shimmers. All of these kind of look the same on the eye. I think I talked myself out of keeping this one, so this one actually is going to be a declutter. Shockingly. Yep. This one also is going into the makeup influencer stash, but it is also a declutter. I'm not going to be using this palette anymore. This is the Nikki Tutorials and Beauty Bay collaboration, and I love the packaging so much. It's very like Barbenheimer, but like before Barbenheimer was a thing. But the packaging aside, the color story kind of sucks. I don't know why I bought this. I was just, I don't know. I wasn't thinking. The shimmers look really beautiful. Like, as you can see, it looks very similar to that Pat McGrath. But when I tell you these shades somehow disappear on the eyelid, I don't understand what happens. Like, it looks like the Pat McGrath now, but about maybe an hour, 45 minutes from now, it ain't gonna look like that anymore. And the mattes, there's no real mattes that I can use for an eye look. There's no mattes in here that I can really use for a cohesive eye look. It's very colorful, and like there's a couple neutral shades, but unless I just stick with that same brown tone, I'm not gonna get a lot of use out of it. So I think it's time to go. Like, the colorful shades don't have any shades that go with them. They're just kind of random. So I'm gonna put this in the makeup influencer stash, but it's decluttered. Palettes here from Violet Voss. I have the Essentials and the Sun-Kissed Summer. The Sun-Kissed Summer is definitely more my speed, but I never reach for it. I kind of forgot that I had it. In here, to be honest. So I think it is time to say goodbye. This is like a kind of chunky, I can feel the glitter kind of a shade. It's pretty, but I don't ever use it. And these nude shades I have a million times over. I'm going to go ahead and declutter. You can see how that pink glitter kind of is a little chunky, and it's just kind of patchy, which is not great. So the other shimmers are fine, but that glittery shade is just not great. This one I got in a BoxyCharm years ago, and I've used it so much, and it doesn't even look like it, but I think it is time to go. I haven't reached for it for a very, very long time. This emerald shade is what has been keeping me coming back to this palette, but I've just found shimmer shades that I like better. The formula is okay, not great. So it was great at the start of my makeup journey, but right now it's not the best, so I'm gonna declutter. I've been holding on to these for way too long. I know Marc Jacobs Beauty is coming back, but I don't think I need to hold on to these anymore. I'm not sure. Part of me wants to keep them because I really do enjoy the formula, and part of me knows that I'm not going to be reaching for it. So this is the Electric palette from Marc Jacobs. The palette packaging is gorgeous. It's everything I want, all the glitter and the pink. And the formula on the inside is really beautiful. These shimmers are so great. I wish there was more of a neutral option for the shimmers. It's more of just a pop of pink and then mattes that are neutral. It is really beautiful. I think it's time to go though, because I still haven't reached for it. I don't know. It pains me to get rid of it because I've used it and loved it for so long, but I haven't reached for it in about a year or more, so I think I could probably let it go. And then this one is the Fantasine, and this is more of like your springtime neutral pink color story. Again, something that I have a million times over. The Lunar Beauty Nude Prism one is just like this. The Natasha Denona palettes, the nude palettes. It's not enough to keep it, I don't think. But the formula is really good. Until Marc Jacobs Beauty comes back, I may reevaluate and test out their formulas. I may keep it on hand just for that purpose, but it's going to be a declutter. And close to the end here, so thanks for sticking with me. This one, I don't even know what the brand name is, but I'm going to tell you right now, it looks like a dupe for the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette. Like color story wise, it looks pretty much exactly the same. There is no branding on this palette. I got this in the Online and Makeup Academy kit, and I don't mind the formula, but I don't love it either. I may just keep it on hand for a kit purpose, just to have an extra palette that has a lot of colors in it on hand that's not part of my actual collection, but otherwise I would be decluttering it. So I'm going to count it as a declutter because it's not going to be in my drawer, but I'm going to keep it on hand for that purpose. I have 2 palettes from Blend Bunny Cosmetics, and I don't know what I want to do with them. So this is kind of Barbenheimer vibes. Again, the bright pink with the black rainbow whatever. This is the rainbow palette of your dreams, and this is the neutral eyeshadow palette of your dreams. It's really hard to decide what to do with these because I do think the formula is good. I just think it's a really big palette, and my makeup style, like knowing my makeup style, I don't know how much use I'm going to get out of either one, which is really sad because there was a time when I used these a lot. I will say this Dollhouse palette is really great because it has your medium, your light, and your deep, and then 2 shimmers to choose from, like a darker shimmer and a lighter one. I like how it's laid out. It's very intuitive, and I think I'm gonna keep it. I think I'm gonna keep the Dollhouse one. Maybe I'll keep this one if I do want to do like colorful looks, because I don't have that many rainbow palettes. I might just have to keep it just in case I need a color on hand. It is an all matte palette, no shimmers at all, so it is perfect for that reason. I think I talked myself into keeping it, so I think I'm gonna keep both. I'm gonna actually need to try using this a little bit more. It may not make the next declutter after I try it out a little bit more. I've only used it a few times, but I've used the rainbow one a million times, and the quality is impeccable for rainbow palette. Like, it's super pigmented and beautiful. So yeah, I'm gonna keep both for now. We'll see how long they stick around. I think I have 2 brands of eyeshadow left. Wow, that went quicker than I thought. So first up, I'm gonna do Kados, and it kind of pains me because I'm like such a completionist when it comes to this, but I know they've come out with many palettes since, so I don't feel as bad about getting rid of some because I can't possibly complete the collection. So I'm really just gonna keep the ones that I think I'm gonna get a lot of use out of. So first up is one of my most used, and this is the Futurism 7. I can't read Roman numerals right now. Sashimi City. So I love this packaging style. It is beautiful. Such a gorgeous neutral palette. You have a light, a medium, and a deep, and then another kind of muted option up here, and then 2 shimmers. One is a duochrome gold to pink, and this one is just like a beautiful sparkly topper shade that we'll get a lot of use out of, and I'm gonna keep it. It's a gorgeous palette. Honestly, I don't know if it goes like this or like this, so I don't know what the shade names are. Maybe I should just take this out. I should probably just take it out. There's no way I'm gonna look at it, so I'll just look it up online if I need to. It falls out of it every time I try to use it, but I'm gonna keep this one. One that was kind of in that same collection was the Futurism number 6, and is the Lunar Lavender, and this one I get a ton of use out of. Oh, I'm just gonna take that one out too. I think I kept all of them. But yeah, this is another beautiful palette. When I do reach for purples, I reach for this palette. I've gotten so many compliments on my eye makeup when I wear this palette, so I'm definitely gonna keep. I love this blue to purple duochrome, and then this beautiful pink purple sparkly topper, and the matte formula for Kados is just so beautiful and buttery. I don't know if it still is, but these palettes, they still hold up really well. So I'm gonna keep that one. Now we're getting into the other Futurism palettes. I know there's gonna be some that I'm gonna declutter, so we'll just have to see which ones. So I have, let me just try to put these in order. Here's 1 through 5, the original Futurism palettes. And I know for a fact that I'm going to keep this one because I use it a lot and I get a lot of compliments when I wear it. This is the Futurism 5 Electro Turquoise. And wow, this neon orange is such a nice pop in here, and I love these blue shades. This is a gorgeous topper shade that is just, it complements a lot of different looks. And then I have a matte brown up here if I want to make a neutral look with it. And then I have this gorgeous blue shade that rivals Pat McGrath in quality. So I'm definitely going to keep this one. It's featured in a reel on Instagram and a short on YouTube. So if you want to go check that out, just go ahead and check that one out. But I have gotten so many compliments on this eye look when I use it. So I'm going to keep it. And I love it too. But it makes me feel good when other people notice my makeup because I do my makeup every day. Let's see. This one I probably can go ahead and declutter. This neon pink is like a Barbie dream, but I don't want to keep it just for that one thing because I know I don't use the rest of it. This orange shade I do use and pair with the Futurism 5, and I really like it, but I think I have this shade in another palette that I'm going to keep, so I'm going to declutter this one. This one is kind of a difficult decision. This is the Astro Pink one, and I got a ton of use out of this in the past. I don't reach for it as much now. This blue shade is like a starry night sky. It looks so pretty on the lid, and I don't really have anything like it in my collection. Let me just go ahead and swatch it for you. It's not as like opaque as you think it is going to be in pan. It does have a black base and blue glitter. Really, really gorgeous. And pairing it with a black matte underneath, you really see all that blue glitter. And I don't know. Like I never reach for this if I'm going for neutrals, and it's half neutral. So part of me wants to get rid of it. I think I have a shade similar to this blue in a different palette, so I might just have to declutter it. This one is also a neutral palette. This is the Futurism 2 Cyber Bronze. And oh yeah, this one I never touch. I'm gonna go ahead and declutter it. Again, I don't reach for neutrals in here, and this silver is beautiful, but I'm not reaching for just that. The Xenon palette, the mini Xenon from Natasha Denona, has a great silver in it, so I'm already keeping that one. So I'm going to just declutter this one. There was a time when I wouldn't even declutter any Kados palettes, so this is hard for me. This is the Sci-Fi Green Futurism 1, and wow, is it gorgeous. I love this, but these two shades are so similar on the eyes, you cannot tell them apart. And I love this, but these two shades are very similar as well. Do I need to keep something like this in my collection? Probably not. And I haven't reached for it in a very long time, so I think I'm going to declutter it, sadly. So I think I kept 3 and decluttered 4 of those skinny Futurism palettes. And now I have 2 big palettes from Kados, and I think I know which one I'm going to keep, but we'll just see. This is Angelica's collaboration with Kados and Club Nebula palette, and this one is their other palette in the same format. This is the Escape Pod. The color stories are kind of similar, but kind of different. So, well, I guess they're not similar at all. I'm lying. I thought they were more similar, but Angelica's is definitely more like deep, pigmented, grungy kind of a shade here. So, putting them close together, I think I'm gravitating more towards Angelica's palette. I really love the color story she came up with, and this blue is the one I was telling you about. I think that's similar enough to this shade. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're very similar. If I put a black base under that, it would be the same, and it'd be more pigmented. So I'm going to keep Angelica's, and I think I'm going to get rid of the Escape Pod palette. This orange in here is like a duochrome, and it's kind of similar to the other one, but I don't know. That neon orange was really special. Should I keep that other palette? No, I can't keep it for one shade. I can't keep it for one shade. All right, I will keep Angelica's, and I'm going to declutter the Escape Pod palette, or do I want to? Because these greens are really beautiful. Yeah, they're beautiful, but I think I can get rid of it. It's interesting because my collection is so big that I don't need to keep everything. So my idea of like yes, they're beautiful, but really do I need it is what I'm thinking. So I'm gonna keep one and declutter one. I think that's fair. So I think we are left with my Anastasia palettes now. And I think I'm going to be keeping all of them, but I will go through the ones that I do have. Oh, I do have one more palette. It's just up here with my Anastasia palette. So I'm going to talk about this one first. This is the Sigma Ambiance palette, and the brush is really beautiful, but I must say I never reach into this palette anymore. I don't. It's all neutral. You would think that I would, but really all of the shades kind of look similar on your eyes. So it's not a lot of range in here. Not my favorite formula ever. I'm gonna keep the brush though, because these Sigma brushes are phenomenal, and this glittery dual-ended one I'm gonna keep, but I think the palette itself I'm going to declutter. The glitter here is kind of chunky. It doesn't do as much. You can tell it's not the same as the glitters that I've been swatching all night, so I'm just gonna go ahead and declutter. Now we're going to talk about the Anastasia palettes that I'm keeping, because I'm keeping all of them. So Anastasia definitely had her time in the sun, and not as many people talk about these palettes anymore, but they're still, I think, really loved by the people who have them in their collection, and it kind of brings back a nostalgic feeling of like 2016 YouTube makeup era, and I kind of love that. But I also really like the formula. I mean, other than Natasha Denona, Anastasia is my second, I think, favorite formula. Whenever I do someone's makeup for a wedding or an event, I use one of these palettes. It's just so effortlessly blendable, and the shimmers are so good. So first up is the Norvina palette, and this soft matte, well, what would you call this? This like velvet texture gets really dirty. Mine's pretty clean compared to some people's that I've seen in their collections. I don't know why it doesn't want to focus on this right now. But yeah, it is the Norvina palette, and it is stunning. These shimmer shades in here are so pretty. Like Wild Child, that pink, that rose gold shade, the dazzling shade, they're all good. And the mattes are still amazing, and this palette is old. But the formula's really held up for both the shimmers and the mattes. I'm gonna keep. Again, I don't know why it's not focusing, but can't really help that. This one is my favorite one, Sultry. I've gotten the most use out of this one. Why is this not focusing? I'm just gonna put these to the side, so hopefully it decides to focus. That's a little bit better. I think it's the glitter. All right, this is the Sultry palette, and this is my most used Anastasia palette, and you will see that in just a second. Boom. There's a huge dip in this rose quartz shade. There's a huge dip in Cyborg and Cinder and Pearl and Steampunk. I can see my thumbprint in all of these, and there's a good reason why. It's because I used it constantly. College, I think even maybe a little bit of high school, like end of high school, I took this everywhere with me. This is such a gorgeous palette. Whenever I would go out to a bar, I would wear this makeup. Like, this isn't the palette that I would go with. It's cool toned, but still kind of warm toned with the shimmers. You have a lot of range in here. Never touch the Bloom shade. That's the only shade I never touch. But all the other ones I get a lot of use out of, and the shimmers are gorgeous, and the mattes are gorgeous. And I'm keeping it. They have come out with a mini version if you prefer the mini one, but this is the original, the OG. Also, these little brushes that come in here I never use, so do with that what you will. This one is so good. I will say that the shimmers in here are not quite as sparkly like these right here, but these are kind of similar to Sultry and the other palettes, but really the mattes are the star of this one. Super blendable, beautiful, natural looking. You can really get a lot of great bridal looks out of this. Everyday looks, doesn't matter. Gorgeous. Modern Renaissance is another one of those that's kind of similar to Soft Glam. Another one of those velvet packaging things. They stopped that a while ago. I don't know if they brought it back at all with the Nouveau palette or the rose gold one, but This is a very matte heavy one compared to the other ones. These are not super sparkly, the shimmers in here, so if you're looking for that, this is not the one for you. It is definitely more of like maybe mature lid friendly shimmers in here. Definitely no chunks of glitter at all, and a lot of mattes. So beautiful, soft, rosy colors in here with little pops of pink. The new purple palette is kind of like a modern renaissance, like, but amped up in pigment and color. So if you want like the more subdued version, this one is great. And last but not least, one of the newer palettes in my collection. I just had to try it because, wow, it looked beautiful and it got me. This is the Cosmos palette. I have a short and a reel on Instagram about this. The shimmers in here did not disappoint me. They're definitely like multi-chromes for the everyday person, and I am that gal now. I used to be multi-chromes for like the super colorful makeup person, but I have since kind of come to the I want a mostly neutral look and maybe a little pop of color. I will just swatch some of these shimmers for you just to show what they're like. I know my hand's glittery, I'm sorry, it just happens, but wow. Just wow. That, it's like a purple, like a lavender to a blue to a green. Beautiful. This one is my favorite. It's like a bright blue to a purple to a gold. A little bit of green in there. It really has a lot of different colors in it. The other ones are a little bit more subdued, but they are multi-chromes. Like this one is like a peach to a pink. This one is like a peach to a, or like a pinky peach to a blue purple. This is just, I don't really know if it's a shifty one, but it is a beautiful shimmer. And then this one is a matte with glitter in it, and it is really beautiful. It does look like a galaxy when you put it on. Super, super sparkly. And yes, my hand's already sparkly, so it's kind of hard to tell, so I apologize about that. But it is a black matte with blue and gold and green flecks in it. Just stunning. The neutrals in here work with all these shimmers, and they go from pretty light to pretty dark, so it's pretty close to a perfect palette. And of course it's going to be a keep. It's one of my newer ones as well, but still gonna keep. All right, here is my drawer. There's nothing left in there. It's so weird. I haven't seen this drawer empty in a very, very, very long time. So I'm gonna go ahead and put back the keeps, and I'll show you what happened. All right, this is all the keeps. It looks really empty in here, so I may have to combine my small eyeshadow palette drawer with the big one because it looks really empty in here, but that means I did a really good job decluttering, so I'm happy. All right, here are the declutters, and wow, did I do a good job. That is a majority of my eyeshadow palette collection. I told y'all that I was going to be brutal when it came to declutters, and I was not kidding, because look at that stack of palettes. I think that's maybe 2/3 of my big eyeshadow palette collection gone. And a lot of them were well loved before, so I think I did pretty good. Let me know down in the comments how I did. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this eyeshadow palette declutter video. If you see any palettes in here that you want me to do a deep dive into, swatches, talking about what I think of the formula, more in depth talking about the shade range, things like that, then definitely let me know in the comments section. Eyeshadow is one of my favorite things to talk about, so I could talk forever about it. So just let me know what you want to see. If you want me to add any eyeshadow palettes to my collection, definitely let me know what you recommend. I would be open to trying new eyeshadow palette formulas, even though Natasha Denona pretty much has my heart, but there are some other formulas obviously that still have made the cut, so definitely let me know in the comments what you think. Hope you enjoyed, and I hope you're having an amazing day or night wherever you are, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys!